Folks, I'm mad. I'm genuinely angry and ecstatic and frustrated and full of joy, and I feel like an idiot and I feel like a god. I had a breakthrough and I've never been more upset. Okay, before we get into it, I'm sure you're wondering, I'm wearing something handmade. Not only that, I made it myself. This is not my sweater. If you've been around, you know that I don't really tend to knit for myself, or at least I haven't historically. I stole this from my husband because it's really cold this morning. So this is the Winter League Pullover by Alexandra Tavel, or at least it's supposed to be. You may be able to tell this was my very first attempt at traveling stitches. This was, I think, the second or third garment I ever made. It was my first top-down raglan. I really enjoyed everything about the pattern except the traveling stitches. Could not figure these out for the life of me. I ended up actually doing duplicate stitch over the top of them because I messed them up so badly because I can't count. But we're going to get into my counting issues in a moment. I knit this for Adam in a really interesting choice of yarn. I managed to find a place that had Rowan Sultano like 60-70% off. This is an expensive yarn. It is a cashmere silk mohair blend. So yes, very, very luxe. And I thought, you know, what would be better for a Christmas present? What I was not thinking about was the fact that the Winter League Pullover is a warm sweater knit typically in cotton. So this is the kind of sweater that my husband will put on for 5 to 10 minutes inside when he's feeling a bit cold and needs to warm up. I am not blessed with the same level of healthy circulation that he has, so I'm just stealing this and wearing it today. And it's held up okay. The stitches, I think, have gotten a bit looser. It's certainly pilling a decent amount under the arms, but you know, that's because he loves it so much. And even though he doesn't wear it for a very long time when he puts it on, he does put it on frequently. So yeah, big fan of the pattern. I'm probably going to remake this in a little bit more normal of a yarn. I've got some great bread and butter yarn from A Verb for Keeping Warm in the colorway Coastal Redwood. And I'm planning on using that to knit one of these for myself next year. But that's not what we're here about, folks. We're here about my anger. We're here about my righteous anger. It turns out a lot of YouTube tutorials and a lot of written knitting tutorials are not made for the literal thinker. They're not made for the autistic. Let me show you what's making me angry. So I haven't talked about it on the channel because I'm planning on doing an entire video about it, but I'm doing a series where I'm knitting an absolute metric butt ton, I think is the technical term, of mini scarves in various patterns because I want to find which patterns are worth it and which ones aren't. Yes, we can debate a lot about whether or not mini scarves themselves as a concept are actually useful to wear, but I do think that they're really useful as a knitting exercise, particularly for beginners. I'm really enjoying the fact that of all of the mini scarves I've picked out, I'm going to be picking up a lot of skills. There's one that requires me to do a little bit of cabling. The one that I'm working on right now is lace. The one that I made for my sister-in-law, the soulless scarf, had texture and ribbing. There's another one that requires double knitting. There's another one that requires brioche tuck. So yeah, I'm going to be picking up a lot of skills by knitting small things, and then I can use those small things as gifts, or if any of them really appeal to me, I can hoard it for myself. So I think that's going to work out really well for me. So I've started recently on a new mini scarf that requires some amount of lace. I don't remember the name of it, but I'll put it up on the screen like I normally do. And let me show you what's making me so angry. If you've been around, you know that I've been really struggling with lace. You know that I tried to make the Rib Lace Raglan, one of the world's most simple lace patterns in a simple raglan. And I had to frog it 4 times before I got to the point where I could join it in the round. And then I messed it up in all kinds of weird and interesting new ways. And then I took it to my local yarn store where a kindly but firm Eastern European woman told me that I was maybe not ready for lace yet. So with all of that in mind, let me show you where I'm at in this lace mini scarf. You may be looking at this and being like, okay, what am I looking at here? Where's the mistake? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Where's the mistake? I had a breakthrough, and this is what the breakthrough is, and it makes me so mad. Another video that's going to be coming up soon. This is probably going to go up just as a rant in between videos. I recently went to Knit and Stitch at Alexandra Palace here in London. It's a big knitting and sewing show. It's really cool. I have a whole video that I'm editing right now about it. But one of the things that I did while I was there is I took a workshop on 2-color brioche knitting. And the workshop was meh. The materials that I got from the workshop were very good, but the revelation that I got was free. And that was, there was an older gentleman sitting across from me in the workshop who was absolutely like nailing it. He was knitting faster than anybody else. It was so cool. It was really couple goals, because at one point his wife came in just to check on him because she had been at a sewing workshop and she wanted to see how he was getting on. And I was like, oh, it's so great that they can, you know, that they do this together. I mean, my husband didn't come with me to the workshop, but he did come with me the day that I went there just to browse and was my cameraman because he's the best. But anyway, that's all a digression. I'm doing the brioche knit stitch, which is, I think, the one that we started with. And the woman kept talking about how you have a cross and a flat, a cross and a flat, because the way that brioche works, essentially you're doing a yarn over, it makes 2 stitches essentially cross each other, and then you have like a normal stitch. And so I was doing that, and I remembered when the first time that I tried brioche, I was going to knit the fluffy ass, fabulous ass brioche sweater, the fab sweater, for my kids. And I did a deep dive on a bunch of brioche tutorials, and all of them said that the stitch that you have crossed there, you treat as 1 stitch, essentially. It's like, okay, great. So I was doing that, and I kept getting screwed up. I'm like, okay, so you're treating that like it's 1 stitch, you're doing this other stuff, whatever. And it's just, I don't get it. I kept ending up with the wrong number of stitches on my needles. I ended up frogging the, you know, 1/2 a row that I knit on the fab sweater and going back. So this was my chance, I thought, to do it in person. And you know, there were a lot of people in the workshop. It was sold out. The teacher was fairly busy. I was really struggling because I was having trouble figuring out why I wasn't getting the right number of stitches on my needles. And so I worked up the courage to ask the man across from me. I was like, excuse me, sir, you really seem like you know what you're doing here. I have a very stupid question for you, which is, can you just tell me the number of stitches that are currently on my needles? And he looked at it, and he pointed, and he went to one of the cross stitches, and he used his thumb, and he separated. He's like, that's 2 stitches there. He did, and I was like, but the tutorial said you treat it as 1 stitch. And he just smiled at me, and he was like, yes, but it's still 2 stitches. If you tell me to treat 2 things like it's 1 thing, when I'm counting, I'm gonna count it as 1 thing, right? And then after that, I came home, was working on this, and I got to the part where you do, it's a knit 2 together and a yarn over, right? When I read a bunch of tutorials on how to do yarn overs for lace, it always said, after you do the yarn over, you secure it with a knit or a purl stitch, depending on what side of the work that you're on. That knit stitch is not part of the yarn over. Why are you including it in the yarn over instructions? Like, why not just say, you do the yarn over, and then whatever stitch you do after it is going to be what secures it. It's not that I can't count. It's that nobody ever taught me to count the right way. I made it through. I did increases parallel to lace on this as I was establishing the lace pattern. And now I'm like 1/3 of the way through the scarf, the mini scarf. And I don't, touch wood, knock on wood, whatever. I don't think there's a single mistake in this. I know a lot of you have been telling me this for a long time, but I just need to say it out loud. I'm not stupid. This hasn't been my fault. It's not that something wasn't clicking for me because I couldn't figure it out. It's that I'm a very literal thinker. And so when a tutorial tells me something, I will take that very seriously. And it turns out most tutorials just aren't that serious. This is the weirdest feeling. This is the weirdest feeling I've ever had in my life. I am so excited. I feel like this project has really helped me in sort of the boss fight metaphor that we use, right? Where you've got your boss pattern and you have to level up on your way. This was defeating like a mini boss. Like I feel like I gained some kind of superpower here. And it's just, I understand something a little bit more, that you can say that you treat something as one thing, but it's secretly two things. And when it counts, you have to treat it as two things. But other times you have to treat it as one thing. Okay, I understand why that would be very hard to say in a tutorial. But I think it's really important. This could just be me on a high of having leveled up in this way. But I think, particularly thinking about the Rib Lace Raglan, when I think about all of the other issues I was having that this YouTube channel helped me figure out, so like twisting my stitches, setting up my purls the wrong way, that kind of thing. And then you put all of that in a lace pattern. Like you have all of those issues going on when you're trying to do lace in the first place. And then it turns out you were counting wrong the whole time. Should I frog the Rib Lace Raglan again and start from the beginning? Let me be clear. I'm not working on something for myself until I finished all of my Christmas knits. The reason why I'm doing mini scarves, actually, is because I realized after I got rid of all of the big scarves on my Christmas to-do list because they were too big, that I was left with a lot of hats. And doing the decreases on hats is really stressful for me. I don't love small circumference knitting. So I found that doing little mini scarves in between the various hats I have to do is a nice palette cleanser of a project because I like finishing things. So that's why I'm doing, and this was just with, this is a discontinued Madeline Tosh merino copper glitter in, I think, pink clay. It's a beautiful, beautiful yarn. Just gonna put that up to the camera again. And yeah, my tension in the yarn overs isn't great, but I didn't know if I would ever get to the point where my issue with lace is that my tension in the yarn overs isn't consistent. So that's why I've been working on that. So I'm not gonna be frogging the Rib Lace Raglan and starting over right now, certainly. But maybe I just want to start that over from scratch again. Maybe that's why it was good that it was on hold. Maybe 2026 is the year that I let go of whips that no longer reflect my current abilities. Maybe again, I'm just drunk with the ability to count. Anyway, I was just so very excited and so very frustrated by this revelation that I had to share it with you right away. I can count, folks. I can count. It just turns out I needed the right teacher, and the right teacher happened to be an older gentleman who was learning two-color brioche at Alexandra Palace, who I don't think watches YouTube, but if he does, I just want to tell him from the bottom of my heart, thank you for changing my life. I think this is probably why it's important to have a knitting community. And I think this is probably also why my knitting skills have started leveling up so much more quickly since starting this channel, because I have all of you. But since we're not hanging out in person, knitting, I can't just show you my work and be like, hey, can you count this for me? I wish we could. And you know, maybe I'll start setting up some Zooms and stuff. I've been thinking a lot about the future of the channel, and that's a video that I have coming out very soon as well. Next week is going to be an Am I the Asshole week, just because I know a lot of you have been asking for it and waiting patiently or not so patiently. So I'm putting that up as a little bit of a fun time where I do some knitting, and then I've got a video coming out after that about sort of my reflections on 6 months on YouTube and where I see the channel going, and some really exciting plans that I want to share with all of you. Am I gonna have to change the name of the channel to just Good Yarn Also Knits? Like, they're not great knits, but Good Yarn and knits I'm okay with. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, if you enjoyed this sudden, emotional, excitable ramble, then you're gonna love the rest of my channel. So please do consider subscribing. I update about once a week, usually on Saturdays, and I think we're building a really great community in the comments. Of course, I think that because I'm biased, because every single person who comments on my channel, I describe in real life to people as my friends. When I was at the brioche workshop, I was talking with a woman and I was like, yeah, I really want to make this hat, but a friend of mine says that doing decreases in brioche is really scary. So I was hoping we'd cover that in the workshop, and it's a shame we didn't. That was one of you. You're all my friends. I am deeply appreciative of all of you, and I hope you're having a great week, and I hope that next week is even better, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you soon. But right now, I'm just going to go dissociate for a little while and get into doing some more lace correctly, because who knew that that was a thing I could do? I didn't, but I think you guys did, and that's why I love you. All right? Thanks. Bye.